Can you imagine a world where you get through the day and you're talking about some situations and the question does not come up, well, how many followers do you have there? Or how many likes are you getting? Right? We live in a world where today's social media time value is placed on how many likes you have, how many followers you have, how many platforms you own, and so forth. And so, what we want to do is dive into the reality of it because um, everybody wants followers, right? Everybody wants followers, followers, followers. But there's another side of that, which is the part where you actually realize when you have followers and you have influence that you are a leader. And along with being that leader comes a sense of responsibility that most people don't take account into. So what is leadership? Um, it's influence, right? What is influence is leadership, right? It goes into um, your ability to develop in others that want or that desire to actually follow you, right? And a lot of people don't really realize that that is a major part of it. When you have an audience, you have actually developed the desire in other people to follow you. And that's an important thing. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. So I wrote a couple definitions down and we're going to get into it because one thing social media doesn't promote, right, is facts. You got a lot of influencers who have a lot of followers based on fiction, based on hype, based on popularity, based on what they have, based on fashion, music, and so forth, right? But let's promote for a second the educational side of it, the definitions, right? So being a leader, right, is the ability, right? Let's dig into the ability, right? Let's dig into ability, right? So we're going to start with the ability, right? The possession or means or skill to do something, right? So what the ability we looking for is the ability to develop in other people, remember, that desire to follow you because a lot of people they want followers um and a lot of people have followers based on something random, right? You did something that you really didn't even anticipate was going to blow up over the internet, and now you know you got millions of followers. Now you got sponsorships, you got brands coming after you, you got people wanting to do collaborations and so forth, and now you've become this major influencer, but you didn't purposely do it. It just sort of happened. What we're talking about right here is the actual ability to make it happen purposely, right? True leaders are going to be able to gain followers because of the ability they have, right? To increase that desire in someone to follow you. Meaning, everything you put out, your true followers is going to be right there to catch it. They're going to be right there to catch it and roll with you, right? But you have to have that ability. Let's look at some similar words to ability: the capacity, the capability, the potential, or the power, right? It's actually a power to have people follow you. It's a very powerful thing to be a leader or an influencer. And we got to start looking at what that really means. Because a lot of people, they fall off the rocker. And guess what? When you go, so does your influence, right? So, and that's one of the burdens of leadership, right? Is that as you go, so do the people who lead, the people who you lead, right? Um, and so, uh, like for instance, like if you're in an organization, right, and you a positional leader, when you leave that organization, guess what? Your leadership goes with you, right? Meaning that particular place is why you blew up, but when you leave, you didn't have no influence outside of that place. And a lot of people don't understand that. You only a leader in that environment. Nobody knew you before that environment, right? So if you're a positional leader, meaning that environment puts you in that position, when you leave that environment, so does your influence go with you, right? Because you're not influencing nobody outside of that environment. And that's one of the problems with being a positional leader, meaning based on what you blew up off of, that's the position or the spot you got stuck in because you didn't actually earn those followers. It happened as a fluke. And now you stuck in that position. You stuck in that genre. You stuck doing if you made a joke, now you stuck in and impressing those followers with comedy. That might not have been even your original intention, right? So we we wanted to bring out the ability. When you have the ability to um develop in other people the desire to follow you, that's what's going to help make you a true leader. All right. Let's dig into what that leadership is. Like I said, it's influence, right? What is it? What is influence? Okay. Influence is the capacity to have an effect um, on the character, right? To have an effect on the character, meaning the people who follow you. A lot of us don't realize the effect we have on other people. And that goes into not having the right kind of self esteem. When you have self esteem, you understand that what you do and how it's perceived by other people who follow you, it actually affects them, right? So the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself, right? So influence is a heavy thing because it actually affects the people who's watching you. It's like being a parent, right? Um, the way you act, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you treat a child's mother, the way you carry yourself, the way you see yourself, that influence trickles down to the child, right? And that's a fact you can't get away with. Well, a lot of adults are still thinking like children. They looking for guidance. They looking for someone. And a lot of times you don't know that you're influencing those people or that you have that effect on them. So we got to be careful with our obsession with followers because a lot of times we don't take into account what kind of influence or leadership we actually have on followers. That's why sometimes it's best to step back, look at the big picture, and say, wait a minute, I didn't even realize I have this effect on people. I need to educate myself so that now that I have that influence or that audience, I'm leading the people the right way. And a lot of times people are forced into leadership and they're given a position that they wasn't ready for and they stuck in that. Ain't nothing wrong with backing up and saying, listen, wait a minute, you got me stuck in this position, but you never, as a leader, handed me anything or the proper tools to be ready for this position. And you want so much out of me. Fans want a lot out of the people they follow, not understanding sometimes those people just don't have the tools because it wasn't given to them. They did something, it blew up, they became an influencer, and now they have these millions of followers and they really don't know how to lead them. All right. Um, Going back to that ability, it was something I wanted to, I wanted to get a scripture. Let me see. In the Bible, King James Version, Matthew 25 and verse 15. I'm going to start at 14. It says, for the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability. And straightway he took his journey. So he gave them the measure based on their ability, meaning he already knew their ability of how to deal with it. And he gave to them accordingly, right? So a lot of times we get positions based on our ability, right? It's on you to know how to use that based on your ability. Don't try to um steer outside of your lane. Don't try to jump somewhere else where it's not your natural ability to cover that, right? Let me get a precept. Watch this. Um, and this is good. I use the Bible, right? Because I study the Bible. The Bible has the best stories, the Bible has the best testimony, and the Bible is a blueprint, right? So let's go to First Peter 4 and verse 11. It says, if any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which God giveth, that God in all things may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom he praise, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. So going back, it says, let him do it as of the ability which God giveth, right? So each of us have an ability that God has given us, right? Some of us don't know that we have the ability to lead people. Like I said, going back into that effect, some of us don't know the effect that we have on other people. So it's a very dangerous thing and a very powerful thing that you got to learn to be careful with. Don't just desire to be an influencer or a leader just because it's trendable on the internet. You got to understand what comes with that, and that's a lot of responsibility. All right. So going into that influence, let's go into Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 25. I wrote these definitions down and then I wrote a precept just to give it some context and background because um, otherwise I'm just speaking out of my mind, right? And I don't want to just be speaking out of my mind because there one thing about facts, right? Fundamentals don't change. Fundamentals is fundamentals from the beginning until now, right? And some people might look at me and say, like, I know that dude, you know what I'm saying? I know the background he came from. And it's weird to see him using the Bible. But guess what? I just told you the fundamentals don't change. Anything I come up with my own, that's that thing just flat. The fundamentals of life go up and up and up on different levels, right? So, Wisdom of Solomon 7 and verse 25. I'm going to start at 24. It said, for wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of God and a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore, can no defiled thing fall into her. For she is the brightness of the everlasting light and the unspotted mirror of the power of God and the image of his goodness. That's good right there. That ain't even where I was going. That's actually the next verse. But let me go back to what it says. And a pure influence following from the glory of the Almighty. So when you desire to be an influencer, you got to understand that the wisdom that you putting out there is supposed to be wisdom coming from the Almighty. If it's not, it's coming from self. And a lot of times ourself, we full of it, right? So if you want to influence people, you want to make sure that your influence is coming from the Almighty. You don't want to just be influencing people, pulling tricks out your own backside. You feel me? If I'm gonna say it nice, right? You don't want that to be the reason why you're an influencer. So let's go back. All right. What is influence or what is leadership? Is your ability to develop in others a desire to follow you, right? All right, let's touch that desire one time, right? So desire, right? It's like to long for something or to hope for something, right? So you trying to develop in other people a desire to long for the content you putting out, right? To long for the wisdom that you have that they don't have, right? So when you going into that, let's look at some of the similars, right? Ambition, right? An appetite, aspiration, a craving, an eagerness, fascination, right? People are fascinated with other people, and more so in this internet age than at any time we've ever seen, right? And it's crazy because just on the flip side, people is obsessed with having people being like fascinated with them, like having the eagerness to follow them. But like I said, man, at the end of the day, you gotta be careful with what you putting out there, right? The scripture said, if any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God, meaning that wisdom that we putting out there, if you want to be an actual leader and have followers, it needs to be the right wisdom. All right. Um, let's touch something real fast. Let's go to Psalms. And I like the Bible. I never knew how to use the Bible before to make my point, but this is what we're going to use because ain't nothing any more truer than the Bible, right? Let's go to Psalms 37, verse 4. It says, delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. So it says, delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. So why do some of us desire to have followers? That should be the question. Is that a desire that you came up with because um, you've seen it as a fad on social media? It's something that'd be fun, or is that a desire that was actually put inside of you by the Lord? That's what you got to consider. Are you doing it out of vainglory? Are you doing it because um, it's a numbers game to you? Or is it something that the Lord actually put in thine heart? Because some of us really didn't ask to be such influencers to the point where you got people literally obsessed with what you do and you don't even realize it because you ain't tripping off of it. You ain't out for no vainglory. And other people will be jealous and look at you thinking like you doing this for vainglory, man. Be careful. Watch you influencing other people the wrong way. When in reality, you ain't even tripping, right? You're not even realizing the potential you have to lead others because it's not a greed that you have. You don't understand that that's something God has for you, right? So there's a difference. There are some people who have it naturally, and it's a desire that the Most High put in them, and they just haven't really grasped it. And there's some people that's just doing it out of vainglory. They want to be the next big star on the internet and things like that, right? Um, Psalms 51 and verse 6. Let's see where we at. Verse 6. It says, behold, thou desirest truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part thou shalt make me to know wisdom. So if your desire is for truth, you know, honestly and sincerely, the Lord is going to give you that wisdom. You don't really got to worry about it. Your influence is going to be a correct influence, right? And therefore you will be able to develop certain skills in other people, right? And that's the thing, the ability to develop. A lot of leaders, they want to be leaders because they never had nothing. Now they get the boss man around, and they not taking into consideration the development part about it, right? A good leader is going to develop more leaders. If you a leader who is a leader because you got the position, um, you real aggressive, you want people to understand you, but you haven't developed nothing in them that gives them the desire to follow you, that's just all you are, is that positional leader. You hold a position and that's it. You're not actually a leader at all. You have a leadership position. And there's a difference, right? That's why you see so many influencers on social media here today and then gone the next day. It's like, oh, remember that dude? He had a like, I'm gonna give you an example. Um, there was on Instagram a couple years ago. There was a young dude that he wore Vans, right? And every time he pointed the camera at his Vans, he said, "Damn, Daniel, right? Remember Damn Daniel, hashtag Damn Daniel? He blew up, right? He had influence, he got sponsorships, a leader yesterday. Where is he at today, right? Because he was in a position where his fame, his 10 minutes of fame came and it went away. And I don't know that dude, and it ain't nothing personal against that dude. I'm just using that as one example, right? So you got to be careful of who you of dealing with people, because as a leader you're supposed to develop the right desires in them. You're supposed to bring more out of them, right? You're supposed to be able to help people who follow you grow and expand. And that's ultimately what gave me the courage to go ahead and start putting out content again. I was putting out content 10 years ago. I had a show. I ain't gonna even mention that show because it wasn't nothing positive about it. You can find out more over at streetleaguetradinggroup.com. I hope that made sense. I hope you like what you learned. If you do, support us. We got links in the description. Make sure you comment, share this video, and make sure you stay tuned for the next video. All right. See you then.